Hey guys, today we're drinking New Make Spirit. Stay tuned. So what I have here is New Make Spirit from the James Eadie Project. So this is unaged distillate that will be whiskey after it's aged in a barrel for 3 years. So you know, wine comes from grapes, rum comes from sugarcane, whiskey comes from grains. Now gin also comes from grains, and vodka. So this is clear, unaged. It's not vodka because vodka is distilled to almost 95% and the flavors are all removed, whereas this is made with an attempt to keep the spirit flavorful. So this is all of these are bottled at 63.4%. All right. Anyway, what this is James Eadie approached 6 distilleries and asked them to look at distilling whiskey in the way they used to in the 1920s. So there's a book called The Distillation of Whiskey. It's a historical book, and it talks about the traditional methods of distilling way back in the day. So these 6 distilleries said, yes, we'll do it, and I got the New Make Spirits. This year, I believe they'll be putting out the first release of the whiskeys, so they'll be 3 years old, and I'll grab those. So the first distillate is from Ardnamurchan. Now they said what interested them was that they're a fairly modern distillery. So with their modern equipment and modern techniques, using older style techniques and older barley or traditional barleys, brewer's yeast instead of distiller's yeast, they were very eager to try this all. So Ardnamurchan, they used Chevalier barley and Nottingham and Windsor ale yeasts because they can't use the distiller's yeast. So these are traditional ingredients. What they found was this slowed down the fermentation process. So they allowed for 68 hours of fermentation, and they noted that at 68 hours, fermentation was still active. One of the things they said they'd be interested in trying was experimenting with longer fermentation times using the same traditional ingredients. The malt is cranked up to 11. This smells fantastic. But it's super malty, sugary, maybe some syrup, some treacle. Wow. That's swinging for the fences. A little bit of earthiness, a little bit of like oil, grease. Wow. It's very sweet. It has a touch of veggie on the end, but little apples, some stewed fruit. That's really intense. But I like it. I like it a lot. Second up, we have Dornoch Distillery. Now, Dornoch is a far more traditional distillery. So from their perspective, they said, we've done a lot of this stuff before, but working with the traditional ingredients and running through the processes, they were very excited to do this as well. So Dornoch Distillery, they used floor malted organic plumage archer barley and aged spent brewer's yeast. They fermented this they had 2 fermentations, one for 168 hours, one for 26 days, giving an average fermentation of 2 weeks. Now, one of the interesting things they did was to mimic the transportation that would have occurred back in the day. They aged the yeast 2 weeks without cooling or like at room temperature. They aged it to sort of mimic what would have happened during travel while they were delivering the yeast. It would age. So, okay, this one I don't like as much, but it's intense. Not as inviting. It's more of the grimy, leathery. Still get the oil. All right. heavy on the, I want to say, nutty notes. There's like a nuttiness. There's a little bit of sweetness. There's something it's overwhelming to me. I can't really make it out. Again, very intense. I prefer the first one. Next up, we have Holyrood Distillery. Again, a lot of traditional work going on at Holyrood, so they were again more more familiar with a lot of the processes and ingredients, but eager to experiment. So Holyrood used a base of heritage malt barley, plumage archer and chevalier barley, and a small portion of heavily peated Highland malt barley. They used Edinburgh ale yeast as their yeast component. One thing they said was that it gave them an appreciation for some of the things that they take for granted currently, like anti-foam, stuff like that. Using the brewer's yeast as opposed to the distiller's yeast, a lot more foam, harder to deal with, slower fermentations, I guess. Okay, this is almost in between the other two. So I'm getting a little bit of the fruitiness, a little bit of the sweetness from the first one. But also, there's a bit of that industrial, dirty griminess from the second one. This is super interesting. Well, one thing I will say is with the spirits, all bottled or all put in the cask at 63.4%. Super intense. The whiskey flavors are like the spirit flavors, like unmuted. This is fantastic as a tasting experiment. All right, a little bit too intense on the. I don't want to say sour. The grimy is a little intense. The fruit and the sweet, a little less so. I'm getting heavy like vegetation roots on this, like pulling up vegetables. Wow, this has been super interesting. So the first one is my favorite by far in terms of just smell and taste. I like them all to an extent in that experimentally I like that I've tried them. The intensity is just it's too high, which I guess that's kind of the point, right? They're going to go in the barrel. They're going to be sort of aged, and it's going to mute certain characteristics. The barrel tannins will be picked up. Maybe it'll mellow it out a little bit. This is the first time I've ever had new make spirit. I've had gin. This is better than gin. Can't wait to try the rest of them. So there's 3 more distilleries, and then there's one that's the 6 of them mixed together to get like the ideal project representation. Well, that's the show, guys. Hope you enjoyed as much as I did. As always, I'm Jason. This is It Was All a Dram. Don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. Until next time, cheers.